the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and Pharaoh. The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and Pharaoh, bro.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. The Monte and the Pharaoh.
The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
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 Monte and Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
And Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monte and the Pharaoh?
Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and the Pharaoh Show. Next. And it's Monte and the Pharaoh, baby.
Watching Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a run.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut the fucking music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible. Monte and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monte and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we're gonna rock it.
Straight to the top. We're living this life, not just dreaming it, we're doing it for real. Straight to the top. Working hard every day just to leave out that tower.
All right, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, seen out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, Long Island. At the board is super producer Matt. How are you, bud?
Amazing as always.
Love to see you.
He's amazing.
To the right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, partner? Back again.
Couple of good shows last week.
Yeah.
What was your most enjoyable part?
Oh my God. I love the jamming with Andrew and the band Aqua Cherry. That was awesome. And Virgil's penile discussion was pretty funny there, dude.
Did you ever think Virgil was going to be like that?
No, I told you I was really surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect with Virgil because thanks to the internet, there's been some unflattering comments about Virgil. I wasn't sure what we were getting. He was awesome. He was cool.
He was fun.
He was fun.
It was different, right?
You know, yeah. I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought he was an excellent guest.
Could make a little announcement here. We'll be putting our show on cable TV in New Jersey and Connecticut within the next couple of weeks.
Holy tri-state,
so
Batman.
Yeah, look at you knowing a tri-state.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah. That much I know. What comes after those three? Pennsylvania? Is that next? We're after them too?
I think we're going to go international.
International? Okay, fine.
Jimmy and I would like to take a moment to show respect to the people who have lost their lives and the people who were in the front lines during this time. All right, welcome back. Before we hit our guest, Mr. Just Incredible, ECW superstar, former heavyweight champion.
That's right.
We're just going to take a quick commercial break.
Be right back.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. Monte and the Pharaoh could be seen on YouTube, Monte and the Pharaoh page, Facebook Live, Monte and the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Could we be seen on iHeartRadio?
Seen or heard?
Really saying that?
I thought children are to be seen and not heard.
Well, we are children. Anchor.
Yeah, thank you.
Anchor Radio, Twitch TV, Monte and the Pharaoh page, RTF Sports Network every Friday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Their Anchor show.
Nice.
Channel 115 every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. in the reduced version, where we'll be having.
How about the abbreviated version? Can we go with that?
Go
Reduced
with that?
Makes it sound like, I'm having trouble in the sack. How about abbreviated?
You're attacking my slip running video.
I'm a little
Just Incredible will be reduced on that video.
We will not be reduced!
Early risers Saturday 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. on Channel 115,
right.
and on Channel 20 Friday mornings at 1:30. So that's like a couple of hours from now.
Right.
So a little trickery there. Some people are thinking Friday morning like Saturday morning.
Right.
It's kind of like Friday
No, it's actually
morning.
late Thursday, early Friday morning.
I want to thank the star of our show today, Mr. Justin Credible. Justin, how are you, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
Thanks for taking a ride over to the station. I
No,
really
it's my
appreciate
pleasure.
It.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Honor to have someone of your caliber
Damn
even
straight.
sitting here. I'm going to
straight.
turn you over to the star of the show.
Where's that?
He's going to give you something called the juice. You're the star of the show, but this is like the regular star of the show. So
Where did you come up with the juice, by the way?
I don't know.
This is recent with you. All of a sudden, it's the juice. Okay, folks.
What do you want me to call it?
Yeah, get your glasses because you're about to get a big glass of juice. Here we
right,
go.
there you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guest today, born Peter Joseph P.J. Polacco. Do I have that right? I hope I have that
I
right.
hope you're not mispronouncing names.
Yeah, I know, like we were doing all last week, but that was actually funny. Born October 16th, the day before the Pharaoh, 1973, so he's a Libra. He's well-balanced.
How do you know this stuff?
What?
Like
You
he's a
put it
Libra.
right here.
Oh,
well,
I
I know that I'm a Libra, and he's the day before.
I thought you
so
just knew that off the
How do
top
I
of your
know
head?
this stuff?
What do I know?
You're a Scorpio, right? You're born the day before. Well, that could be if he was born a little bit later. Anyway. Semi-retired American professional wrestler, best known for his appearances with ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, and the World Wrestling Federation. Of course, in ECW, he was the legendary Just Incredible. And in the WWF, he annoyed the shit out of me because I just want to smack Vince with Aldo Montoya. But at least I'm being honest here. I was like, what the hell?
I liked Aldo Montoya.
I know you did. I loved Just
saying.
Incredible. It just felt incredible. Anyway, Polacco is a one-time world champion, as we all know, having won the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, also an ECW World Tag Team holder 2 times with the awesome and completely underrated The Great Lance Storm, and also 8-time WWF/WWE. Virgil refuses to call it WWE. I don't blame him. WWF/E Hardcore Champion 8 times. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this week is not just the coolest, and he's not just the best. This is, folks, Justin Credible.
All right.
What's going on, fellas? How are you? Great to be back on the broadcast, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming
It's a
down
long
here.
wait
And
finally getting there, right? We
I
gotta go
know,
those
yeah.
commercial breaks, all this shit. So, how you holding up, bro?
I'm holding up great, man. I'm very blessed, fortunate enough to be working in these crazy times with some great people. And, just getting ready to hopefully get back to some normalcy at some point this year and just get back to performing, to getting in that ring. I never thought I'd miss wrestling as much as I do now. But, just feel very fortunate, especially to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you. So when you have that wrestling opportunity comes, are you going to be nervous about it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
You seem very are you not believing the COVID thing? Or?
No, I believe it 100%. I mean, it's definitely real. It's just for me, man, you can't kill misery. I've gone through.
Please elaborate.
I've gone through the Black Plague, my friends, and nothing can kill me yet. So,
right.
But all kidding aside, I'm just looking forward to getting back to performing, to doing what we love, through whatever circumstances we have to go through to get there. I'm just hoping it comes sooner than later, because I miss the fans. And we don't know when it's going to be where we could perform in front of fans again, right? That's a reality. That's something we have never even fathomed 6 months ago. So it's just, it's an adoption period, whatever. And I'm just, hopefully things could get normalized to where we start just wrestling for the fans again.
I think we're almost on a brink. Like, wrestling's in trouble. Like, if it continues the way it's going.
the ratings are very low.
It's not just that. It just seems like the interest might be there, but not there anymore. But if you guys come back and like everything starts to go back to normal, I could see it getting crazy. Like every indie show getting sold out. You know?
Yeah. I've checked out the ratings. I mean, Raw is ridiculously low, and I don't watch Raw not because I have anything against the WWE. I just don't like the product. 1.6 million viewers, and I would figure without baseball or basketball, which is about to go back live on national television, I figured that wrestling would have a leg up in the ratings. That obviously hasn't been. AEW, which I review every Friday with Vince Russo on Patreon, we go dive head deep into it, and they're holding on to about 800,000 viewers. So what we're basically seeing when we do the breakdown in the tape is there's about 1.5 million wrestling fans, as opposed to back in the day where Raw would do 3 million, WCW would do whatever. And now if you really combine AEW, NXT, it's about 1.5.
Wow.
If you look at Raw, last week was 1.6.
Now,
SmackDown, the same thing. So it's the interest in pro wrestling is at an all-time low, and it's really scary.
In your opinion, what's the biggest reason for the decline in interest in this sport?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because, I feel the talent is at an all-time high. I mean, you're seeing some great men and women out there doing it and doing it at a very high level.
In the ring, yeah.
How
about character development?
That I feel it's just not the same as it used to be. I think we are so concerned as fans or as critics or whatever you want to say in who's doing how many dives to the floor and who's doing what kind of cool moves and slapping their legs 15 times, instead of really creating storylines that are meaningful, that fans care about. So I think we're at a crossroads right now to the way we present pro wrestling to the masses, because right now, we really are struggling to gain an audience, and it's very puzzling because right now I would figure that it would be an amazing time. But also another thing too is, and I think this has directly to do with COVID, we are a performance-based art, and we were always taught to play towards the people and to the live crowds,
right?
And not having a crowd to kind of judge you, because some of the newer kids like to go out and plan everything before they go out through the curtain, where a lot of the older guys, the older cats, they like to go out there and like improv comedy. They like to feel the room and go from there, see what's out there.
Right.
And by not having a live audience to play off of, I think we're really selling ourselves short. And I think it's really affecting the way that the broadcast comes out. And it's become very just kind of paint by numbers sort of thing.
It
and
feels
it's like
blasé to me.
Very much so, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's a big problem that hopefully could be addressed.
Okay.
Well, also not to mention, right, that you can go catch Raw or AEW on the internet.
Yeah.
Whenever you have time.
True.
So it's not must-see TV anymore. It's
right.
like, you had to tune in every Monday night. You didn't want to miss the action, and you couldn't go to the internet to go watch what was going on. So, yeah, it's definitely a troubling time. And, it's a sport based on fan participation.
Absolutely.
So, and who's to say? We don't know if baseball's going to do well. We don't know if basketball and football are going to do well.
Yeah.
I watched a little baseball. I mean, the opening season's today, but I watched some of the pre-games or whatever for the Yankees.
Like Mets-Yankees the other day?
I mean,
okay.
They have some pretty good ideas. They're selling.
They're piping in crowd noise.
Which is fine.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't, no.
But here's a good idea. They're selling.
Come on.
They can sell you a seat, and they'll take a picture of you and put your,
I heard that they're putting a cardboard Monte in seat.
I
Come
think it's
on,
a great idea.
That's terrible. That's terrible. That is awful.
Trying times, man. You got to do
Strange
it
times.
How about football? We're going to have JETS chant, or are they going to pipe that in too?
Why not?
This is ridiculous.
Doesn't matter anyway. This sucks.
That's true. The Jets, they're the Jets. That sucks. Justin, why don't we go back to the beginning? Tell me why you decided to become a pro wrestler. We spoke a little bit outside about your, beginnings with the Hart family. What do you got for us? Where does it all start?
Man, it just started with me as like a 14, 15-year-old kid, man, in high school. Always fascinated by pro wrestling. Seeing Ric Flair go out there and entertain, like, for the NWA. Hulk Hogan, it was like around that era in the 80s. And I mean, I basically knew junior year of high school, I'm talking about 87, that I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I started saving up money to go to pro wrestling school then. So I always knew it was something I wanted to do. And it was just, it was, you know, I was never a good enough athlete to make it in real sports, which I love. I'm a big sports fan.
Okay.
But I figured, you know, I could do pro wrestling. Okay. And for some reason, I just believed that I could be larger than life. And it allowed you this playing field that was wide open. You could just, you know, kind of dare to dream sort of thing.
Sure.
And I just went about it. I worked as hard as I could and took it real serious. And I went up to Calgary with literally $150 in my pocket and came back a pro wrestler. You know,
got to have some balls.
It was the best thing I ever done.
The ballsy move. Were you a big kid growing up, or did you have to grow into the size to be comfortable in this business?
I had to grow into it. I was like, you know, sophomore year of high school, I was maybe 5'5", 130 pounds.
Oh, jeez.
You know,
dude.
And yeah,
5'5", 130. You wouldn't have liked
so
him.
That's
he would have given you a hard time.
All you need is a little juice, man.
Well, stop.
Get a little juice.
Really?
You're back in the game.
That's it.
That happened.
Wow.
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
It
did happen. But
can you get me some? I'm a little small nowadays.
Well, I was going to ask you guys out back. But we'll talk about that later on. But nonetheless, you know, I got to just being in good shape and just really because back then guys were so much bigger. Now, like you know, you got guys that are 130, 140 pounds. Well, back then, you had guys like Ted DiBiase, and you know who they didn't look muscular and huge. They were huge men.
They're big guys.
6'2", 6'3", 240.
Cowboy Bob Orton wasn't a sculpture. The guy was huge.
Huge. Yeah, they were just.
That's it. That's the thing. Like you could be 5'10", 240, built muscular, right? When you walk against, like you go against someone 6'5", and you just look at them, it's like you realize how small you really are.
You really are.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've never seen more mismatches physically in my life than today's current wrestling. It's like, what?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to take this seriously?
Yeah.
This kid looks like he's from the junior high
I want to
line.
know what your parents thought. Mom, Dad, I want
what?
What are you going to do with yourself, Justin? I'm gonna.
Well,
and I'm gonna.
They were not real happy.
Really?
But I must say they did support me. They did support me. And they were super cool.
They let you go up there with the 150.
Yeah.
They knew what you were about to try.
They supported me.
Now your parents were Portuguese, right?
Yeah, they're Portuguese.
So did they know about professional wrestling? Did you have to explain it to them?
They knew. They knew.
Did they like yell at you? Like
no,
what
they
are
were
you
just
doing?
like, you know, this. They knew how passionate I was about it. They really knew how passionate I was about it. I mean, you know, in high school, instead of, you know, I was always part of the cool kids, sort of. But instead of going out, I would do backyard wrestling shows.
Yeah.
So right away, like, you know, they kind of knew that this was by hook or by crook. This is what I was going to do.
Did you think it was real when you were a kid?
No.
You never thought it was real?
I always saw it. See, I always saw it from the performance.
I didn't think it was real.
I had my moments where I thought some of it was real.
That's you, not
I always
me.
saw it from the performance piece of it.
Oh, man.
You know, and but that's what helped me make it.
Yeah.
Because I always thought, like, okay, how can I sell it? How could I, you know, and back then, too, dirt sheets were just becoming a thing.
Right.
And I already started to call the 900 numbers and subscribe to the, you know,
So
and
mom and dad are yelling at you because you're spending all that
money.
money.
They were yelling more about those bills than anything
you must
else.
have gotten your ass paddled. Oh, my God. I got yelled at for that,
Wait,
too.
hold on. So is your mom yelling at your dad because he thinks he's calling, like, dirty hotlines? And then she dials it and finds out it's a pro wrestling hotline?
I spent more money on Jim Ross's 900 number than I'd care to admit.
All right, come on. Tell me how much.
Oh, at least 500.
What?
At least.
What was that, like $2 a minute or something?
Yeah,
like
it's like
that?
$1.99 a minute.
It's like $1.99 a minute.
I have to find out what happened to his leg.
And
He's
he
on
would
there
talk
for
real
5
slow,
minutes.
too, right? He'd be like,
it was
all right,
ridiculous.
guys, we're
But
going to get it.
it was we were so passionate about it, man. We just literally, like, I would be in school, and he'd have study hall, and I'd be, like, writing out cards that we would do for the backyard, you know, when we got home.
This is so awesome, man.
So it was just, it was cool, man. It was,
and then you lived your dream.
And I lived my dream, but it gave me, I don't know, sometimes it just seemed easy for me. Like, a lot of people, like, have struggles, like, oh, I tried hard to make it as a pro wrestler. For me, it was just, like, natural. It's like, how could you guys not know what we do here? This is...
Right.
You know, and I absorbed myself in it. I jumped into it and just lived every part of it like I was already there.
Well, that's why you made it, man, because you loved it that much. It was in your blood. And it didn't matter that at the time you were 5'5", 130 pounds, right? It's like it was there. It's what you wanted.
I'll tell you one quick story. I spent 10. I trained with the Hearts. I had my first pro match October 16th, 1992. I worked for Calgary Stampede, Bret Hart's family's organization. Had my first 10 matches out there, and then I came to the States. Didn't know anybody. Didn't do any indie shows. I went to by myself. Nobody told me to do this. To the old New Haven Coliseum for a WWF house show. And I introduced myself to Tony Gurria, Blackjack Lanza, and Pat Patterson. And I said, sir, I was trained by the Hart brothers. If I could just sit here and, watch the show, if you'd grant me that. They're like, oh, yeah, go ahead, kid.
I don't mean to cut you up, but how do you even get to them, though?
Yeah,
how do you
just walk backstage with my bag.
You're just like, hey.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had balls, man.
Where the hell is security?
There was no security back then. You just walk, man.
Just walk in.
Yeah.
Hey, Vince.
But you were always taught that if you're one of the boys,
right,
you're welcome in any locker room,
right?
So I just did it.
You were already playing the part. You just
I
walked
didn't know
in.
it. I mean, I guess it was ballsier than I thought it was.
Pretty
I wasn't
ballsy,
trying
though.
to be ballsy. I just thought that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I saw the show. They didn't use me, of course. And then I said, thank you for the experience. And Tony Gurria reaches in his jacket. He's like, here's my card. We're starting a new show in Manhattan called Monday Night Raw. Wow. We could use some guys to do jobs and extras, And I said, okay.
Sure.
And right away, that's what kind of got me started in that pathway of meeting these guys and learning.
But at no point was there, like the Gurria say, and after we talk about this, Pat Patterson needs you to change his light bulb in his office or something?
No, Pat, you know what? Pat Patterson was one of the kindest, gentlest human beings, one of the most...
Everybody loves Pat Patterson.
He's one of the most influential guys because he didn't have to give me the time of day. And a lot of people talk a lot of bad things about Pat because of his sexual orientation. A lot of that's a bunch of BS.
Well, hold on.
He was a really
we joke
good
about
dude.
it not because we're not joking about it, but not about the sexual orientation, but the fact that I'll be honest with you. You're a famous professional wrestler. People know you all over. I have a problem when you hear these stories about him taking advantage of these ring boys and all this other stuff, and it's like, I don't know. Isn't there something inside of you that goes,
Not the guy that I knew.
Interesting.
Honestly, I just think, man, back in the day, there were a lot of shady things going on, and this was pre the time I got involved in WWE. But Pat, to me, was never one of those.
He was good to you.
He was not even good to me. He was just a good dude. He was one of Shawn Michaels' close confidants. Like Razor, all those guys. They were all like, I kind of went where my, I was like, because Scott Hall always took me under his wing, and it was like, he kind of like Pat's the guy. Pat was the guy.
So personally, it's fair to say that you feel that his rep is bullshit.
From my experience, absolutely.
Okay.
And again, I wasn't there though.
Right.
In 86, 87, when that stuff was
supposedly
happening.
And obviously, I don't think it's been proven.
Right.
I'm not sure.
I think in my opinion, dude, and I could be way off. I really could. It was still such a masculine business.
Sure.
And being a man of homosexual, he was homosexual. And open about it, always open about it. It wasn't accepted back then. And I think in that way, people just started to kind of like, oh, he's this way. And just all of a sudden,
so
you know what I mean? He's a deviant.
Very important. I just want to make sure we spell this out. So back in those days, it was common knowledge behind the scenes that Pat was gay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he wasn't hiding it behind the scenes?
Never.
Very interesting.
No. Yeah,
okay.
Never.
Okay. All right.
So to me, but I think in the outside of the business, it was still something that wasn't as accepted by far as it is today. And I think he just got to, again, from where I stand, I never had.
I find it interesting that Adrian Adonis portrayed, a very ladylike character, if you will, and Pat Patterson was the most ballsy ass kicker. You could never even. It's just strange.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's just strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do we need to go commercial break, brother?
No, you got.
Okay, let's get one more in. If you could do it all over, this may be anticlimactic, but I'll ask anyway. If you could do it all over, would you have been a wrestler? Ooh.
Wow, now I'm surprised.
I'm hearing the wires crackling.
Oh, wow.
He's he's really thinking about it. He's like, let me see.
I don't know. I guess I would.
Okay.
Because I've had some of the greatest memories of my life as a pro wrestler. But from a living, breathing human being and his future and after wrestling, my future and what it entails, no.
Interesting.
No. I wouldn't want to take away the memories. I wouldn't want to take away the experiences. But from a professional standpoint, from a money-making standpoint, I would have stayed far and clear.
Really?
Because it caused my family and myself so much mental and physical pain that I don't think I'll ever be able to share.
Right.
You know, it's more than people can imagine.
Right. Understood.
You're a cool dude. I'm really.
He's just incredible.
You're a pretty incredible guy. All right. Recently, the Speaking Out movement, shedding light on sexual and physical and emotional abuse inflicted,
all over the place,
right, on members of the wrestling industries. I know you've worked with wrestlers recently. Indie wrestler Candy Cartwright, I think you know her, right?
Yeah.
With her situation with Matt Riddle, you have any thoughts on that situation?
I don't even know the situation.
Okay.
So Candy,
I know Candy, and I don't know Matt, but I don't know their situation.
So Candy claims that Matt was sexually aggressive towards her and kind of called him out on the carpet. Matt returned favor, saying that they had an affair together, but he told his wife and he wanted to end it, and this is her way of trying to destroy his career now that he's a WWE.
He just got promoted to SmackDown,
Right.
and all of a sudden out she comes with this. So I thought the timing was absolutely like, what is going on here? Any thoughts on, in general, what's been going on with all the speaking out, and this one did this 20 years ago and that one did that? I mean, I know how you feel about the Internet in general. What do you think when you hear about this stuff?
I have two versions. I have the political correct version, and then I have what I really feel.
Okay.
And what I really feel might get me in trouble.
Okay.
We don't want you to get you in trouble. So
well, no, I don't want to get in trouble either, but I will say this, that...
Write it down. I'll read it for you.
No. Listen, you never really know what happened.
Right.
I've known and been around long enough to know that we as human beings, and especially in this business, say and do things sometimes out of spite, out of jealousy. And I'm not going to dare call anyone, especially when I don't know anything, a liar or anything. But I just think that it's all like you're playing the game. Anybody that's in it is playing the game, both the male and the female. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but everybody uses it. It goes both ways, and the best way I could say it without getting into too much trouble is both sides know what they're doing, and they know what they're not silly or stupid. They know what's going on. So I think it's just used at their convenience, and I think, like you said, it's a funny time for it to happen. And like I said, I don't know anything about that. I know Candy from wrestling out here in Long Island. She was a very nice girl. She used to date Brian from FTW over here, who had the wrestling school, and that's where I know her from. But she was a wonderful girl, but you can never really tell. It's only those two people know. That's why I've never had the audacity to bring any of my public or private stuff into the public, because it's always he said, she said. Right. And right now, it's almost like everybody has an issue, right?
It seems that way.
So, who could say?
Right.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with pro wrestling superstar, Just Incredible.
We shall return.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York, and with our special guest, Just Incredible.
Justin, I wanted to ask you, were you ever put in a position where you felt you had to do something out of the ordinary to keep your job? You obviously explained Patterson never gave you any problems, but did you ever have anything behind the scenes in any company where it was like, if I don't do this stupid thing they're asking me, I may possibly lose my employment? Did you ever have to go through anything dumb?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, you're lucky.
No, not like that.
Nice.
Not professionally, nor of any other nature. No.
Was there any kind of physicality you actually thought about before a match? Just, I don't want to do this to myself tonight.
No.
Interesting.
No, they were again. Maybe it's just me. I had a really good experience. They were very professional, man. It was the pro wrestling game. I mean, look, and again, I think this goes back to the way kids are taught. You're in a pro wrestling match, but it doesn't mean that you're giving of yourself totally. It's like it could turn into a shoot real quick. I was taught by the Hearts. I knew how to protect myself in the ring.
Did you ever have to?
No.
Nice.
It never got to that. But it's like I wasn't a tough guy, but it's like you kind of know, like, there's certain boundaries you don't cross.
Do you think maybe it helped you rep a little bit coming through the Heart Dungeon? I mean, there's got to be instant respect, though, for people who go through there.
Possibly. I mean, I was crisp. I always had good matches. I always, when I had to put guys over, I did it to the best of my ability, made everybody look great. Was a responsible young man as a performer, as a businessman. I did proper business, so I just never had that issue.
You hung around with some guys though that were bullies in the industry, right? From what I understand,
you could say that.
So do you feel that you ever look back and go, man, I really did this kid wrong that was coming up, or like you tortured someone, or no?
I personally never did. There are a couple of instances where I sided with the guys for the wrong reason, but even then, not really. I mean, hell, it was just hazing, and I got it worse than anybody.
Did you?
Like, I was always getting ribbed.
What, did Andre poop in your locker or something like that? Andre poop in your locker or something?
Not Andre, but Davey Boy used to take my bag and like hang it up from the rafters.
Oh. What was the worst thing that someone did to you that they ribbed you on?
Well, one time in Germany, I took Lex Luger's friend of the female persuasion at a bar, and I think it was like Dusseldorf or something, and he was obviously upset because he's Lex Luger, I'm not, and I'm
Lex Luger.
I got a little bit too drunk, and I woke up late for the bus ride to the next town, and I had all my metrics. I had water dumped on me, metrics dumped all over me, and I had beads and like braided hair, like fake horse hair, attached to mine to come out of the mask, the Aldo mask.
Right, yeah.
And that was all cut off, and it was a receipt from Lex Luger for me taking his delight home with him.
So did you consider this girl in Dusseldorf like a ring rat type of?
Oh, she was certainly of that persuasion.
So then, so you guys got mad at each other for stealing each other's rats?
He obviously did. I didn't see
You're
anything
like,
wrong.
Lex, it's a rat. Take it easy, pal.
Did you laugh your ass off? Because I would have. I would have been like, yeah, top of the card, sling this, buddy.
It was funny, and Luger ended up getting ribbed for it the whole trip.
That's great.
So, but yeah,
great.
it was definitely fun. But it was funny because I had beads attached to my braided hair, and it was in the M&M jar on the tour bus. So that's what I got for being a wise ass.
Oh my god! Coming out of the, we were talking about speaking out. Recently, news again. Sonny, Tammy Stitch, who was supposed to be in studio.
Yeah.
She's back in jail. Another issue.
Yeah.
I know you spent some time with her. Could you talk about her at all?
Yeah, I mean, what is she back in jail for? What did she do?
Secondhand news on my part. So again, guys, I am a wrestling fan, not a wrestling expert. We are not the wrestling experts. We don't have the inside information. But from what we understand, she had an argument with her boyfriend. Something might have happened. He called the cops on her. She took off in a car. She has no license.
Gotcha.
And boom, she's in jail again.
Look, I've known Tammy since I pretty much since I started. I've known her since '94. She was always very impulsive. I think she suffers from, and I'm not trying to. This is not a dig in any means, shape, or form. I think she really suffers from mental illness. I think she has a lot of issues. Obviously, substance abuse, something I've dealt with my entire career. But I think she really just feels like she's still Sunny from 1995.
I was going to ask, is she trapped in her gimmick?
I think she is. And I think she's gone through so much, man. Yeah. I'll tell you, I got in some trouble a couple of years ago, and it really kind of made me realize, like, you got to chill out, dude. things have, and I don't think Tammy ever learned her lesson, and I honestly don't think she ever will. She has a wonderful family, and I just think she's alienated everybody that's ever cared about her. So I worry about her, but at the same time, she's not necessarily doing anything to
make it better.
To make it better at all, and not even asking for help.
Right.
Because I think anybody would be willing to help her if she was sincere about it. I just think Tammy's she'll say what she has to say to get off of whatever the next thing is going to be.
It's got to be hard, right? You were a famous guy, people clamoring to have your attention. Same with her. It must be very difficult to make this sort of transition, to regular life after.
It is, but for her, I would imagine it's much more. Because she was WWE's first diva. She was really sought after in many different ways. She was every kid's young man's dream at some time. And for me it was more like, look, I had my time, I had a good run. Now it's time to move it along, and I still do what I do, but it was okay for me to let that go. For her, I think she very much lives in that, and she lives and dies by being Sunny and by being that person.
What's sad to me, though, is I don't think she realizes that every time she makes an appearance, if she's clean and sober, the fans are still going to love her. She's still going to be clamored for by the people who loved her growing up. She'll still get to feel good about herself. She should give that a shot sometime.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's hard for her. It's hard for anybody to be sober. I'll tell you, it's hard for me to be sober.
Fair enough.
I still have to this day, I still have an alcoholic beverage all the time.
Okay,
and I shouldn't. It's probably rolling the dice in a way I shouldn't, but I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. I'm not going to lie to you guys or to anybody else.
Right.
I don't feel like I should, but you're still rolling the dice. And Tammy, I don't think she feels like I know I'm kind of like easy kid. You got to walk, step slowly, where she doesn't really feel that she has to worry about it because she's Sunny.
Right.
And
she's got the pedal to the metal.
Going back to the demons, right? We all do bad things in life, right? You do things you regret, right? She's done some bad stuff to people that she's loved, at least from what we've read. Yeah. She could be walking around with those demons, and she just can't get past it, realizing some of the stuff I caught you on a shoot interview. I won't mention the guy's name, but you spoke about how you went back to a room, and she offered herself up to you, and you passed.
Yeah.
But holy crap, dude, that's like... That's trouble.
I'll tell you the story now. It was literally at her mother's, it was at her mother's house.
What?
Candido and it was me, Candido, Hakushi, and Tammy. Remember Hakushi?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
We were all traveling together, and we were staying at Tammy's mom's house, and Chris was in the shower, and she gave me the office to sleep in, just like some sheets and a pillow. And while Chris was in there taking a shower, she came in and kind of undressed and said, let's go. And I tried to laugh it off, not to make it weird.
Yeah.
I said, ha, funny, just leave me, you know what I mean? Because that's my buddy. Like, I'm in your house.
Right.
I can't disrespect my friend that way.
Right.
Just somebody that would be that way, to me, disgusts me.
Right.
I'm not that desperate, man.
Right.
I don't care who you think you are.
Right. Did you ever speak to Chris about the way Sonny was behind his back? Not about that particular incident, but in incidents in general?
And I don't think a lot of people could. That was the biggest problem. Shane Douglas, the same way, because he was very close with Chris. Bam Bam Bigelow, the same way.
Chris must have had an idea somehow, though.
Chris knew.
So he knew.
Chris knew. He just didn't want to believe it, and he just kind of went at it with blinders.
That's a guy who comes across...
But that was the tragedy of it, too.
Right. He comes across as a very good soul. He
was one of the kindest people in the world.
He was a good-looking guy. He could have had any woman he wanted. He could have just moved on. He must have really loved her, huh?
Really in love with Sonny.
Did. And it was just a shame how much he was disrespected, especially by Sean and those guys.
Yeah.
Because he did it to himself. It was almost like... anybody with two eyes could see what was going on, and he chose to ignore it and still try to be kosher with everyone. Right. And it's like, dude.
He just wasn't capable of walking into the locker room one night and knocking someone the fuck
or
out.
Or saying something.
Do something.
You don't even have to be violent about it. Just saying, hey, dude, whatever.
A right hand would have been understandable, though.
Yeah, but you know what? You mentioned Sean, right? Sean was a major player. Scott Hall's hanging around. You hung around those guys. You open up your mouth. You lose that paycheck, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, don't cause any problems.
Yep. And that's what it was.
Speaking of that, you with the Click, you hung out with the Click,
Yeah.
you hung out with Scott Hall. Being that you were with them, I was always very surprised that you didn't get more of a push.
Right.
You talk about X-Pac or 1-2-3 Kid at the time. He got a push. You were, in my opinion, much more talented than he was. And I felt you were in that same role as he was, and I never understood why they didn't, because they had a lot of clout, right? They made a lot of. How come they didn't push you ahead? Like, didn't you ever talk to Scott and be like, "Yo, help me out here"?
I didn't want to. I don't know. I just didn't feel good with that.
You felt like you were pulling a card or something, taking a shortcut or something?
I did, and I just felt it wasn't for me to do. I was like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I also was from the school of, I didn't feel I was ever ready at that point to really be pushed to that level. Mm-hmm. And the only time that I was offered something was when Razor and Kev went to WCW. And they offered me to come, to get my release from WWE as Aldo, to go to WCW. And I went to Vince's office and I asked him for my release because they were like, "Pete, we'll get you paid. Come down here." And I went to Vince, and Vince refused. That's when he sent me to USWA, which in turn turned into ECW.
Do you think
that
Vince
was the only
refused?
thing they ever offered me.
Do you think Vince refused more so for his personal feelings towards Scott and Kevin leaving at that point?
I think it was
Spite?
more. Yeah, it was more of, I'm not going to have one of my name guys or whomever
Right.
from my company, regardless of how it's going to. It's not.
Did you get more pay out of the deal though? It's like no.
Vince
had me for another year, regardless.
Vince knew you were one of Scott and Kevin's boys too.
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was totally spiting you.
Of course,
absolutely.
Okay, now I'm veering right though.
Go
You're
ahead.
an independent contractor, right? You're an independent contractor. You have a right to work wherever you want to work. I understand you have an agreement. So what does the agreement say? You have to work for the WWE and you need permission to work somewhere else? I mean, how does that and that's binding as an independent contractor?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And
those contracts were very, very loosely written, and he did that for a reason because a lot of the guys that he had under those contracts, those contracts were literally all 3 years. Each year only guaranteed 10 bookings at $150 back then.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah, that's it. And they were so interpretive to what he wanted. So he really had he knew we couldn't afford lawyers to combat.
Yeah, he's a shifty genius, isn't he, Mr.
You know
McMahon?
what I mean? So we really had no.
So basically, you could have went to WCW, just dropped the Aldo gimmick,
Yes.
went there with fear that you might get. See, that's what I don't understand either. Couldn't you went to Kev and Scott and said, "Hey, look, have WCW fight the good fight." Like, I don't get it. I know about it.
But for them, that's like, I'm asking them to do that. It's like,
right.
nobody
I got it.
wants to
You're
do
still
that.
trying to establish like a big time thing going on for yourself here.
It comes down to this, man. Everybody's your friend, but in this business, nobody's going to go the extra mile.
Right.
And speaking,
unless there's something in it for them.
Right. And speaking of that, at one point you were obviously close with Scott Hall. The last time you were here, I remember, you didn't have the greatest feeling about Scott, and quite honestly, we're not so sure about ourselves. Has the feelings changed? Where are you at with Scott Hall today as we speak?
I think Scott is a lost soul, in my opinion, man. I've stuck it out with him through the years. I've always been the guy to, all his detractors. I kind of sometimes look stupid in sticking up for him.
Okay.
So he's just done me wrong too many times to where I feel like I can even say anything anymore.
Did you ever finally get him on the phone and be like, you know what, bro? I mean, did you have that conversation with him after all this shit?
No.
Douche you,
No.
I mean...
No, the last exchange I had with him was, I think he said something to me on Twitter of like, stop being, because I said something about like, recovery or
okay.
something along those lines.
Okay.
Of me like kind of searching for some kind of help. And he's like, he basically called me out, said, "You know what, you're a puss, man up."
On Twitter?
Yeah, just kind of just verbally blasted me on Twitter.
Because you expressed the want to try to better yourself?
Yeah. And
he's putting you down? How many times have Vince got a check for him to a rehab? All right, that's interesting.
But anyways, it was at the time where I was just like, you know what, dude? Because a bunch of us have also had that come to Jesus moment with Scott. X-Pac did too. they almost came to blows one time in a car ride.
It's known as the come to Jesus moment with Scott Hall.
Yeah,
Very
he's
interesting.
Just, he's
Okay.
who he is, man, and you're not going to change him.
X-Pac almost went at it with him. You were there for that? What went down there?
Pac told me the story. I wasn't there. They were in Florida, going to from Orlando to Tampa, and something happened, and kids just like pulled the car over. Let's go.
Get a load of X-Pac.
Yeah, but it's just he's just man.
Sean
whatever.
seems like a sweet guy in real life. Is the 1-2-3 kid a tough dude?
He's a tough dude.
He's a tough dude, huh?
He's a great dude.
We were
He's
talking
a
about
really
that
great
too,
dude.
about big guys,
He's a
right?
great
So
dude.
I always thought he was a
He's a
small
pretty big guy.
He's a big dude.
Yeah,
He's tall.
Yeah.
I didn't.
He's a big dude.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. A hell of an athlete too.
I mean,
not for
you know, it's
nothing.
funny when we met Animal. Like Animal was in studio. That
Yes.
dude's huge.
Yeah.
Oh
It's-
yeah.
All you guys are huge. But anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with the former ECW heavyweight champion, Just Incredible.
See you in a second.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. We have a special guest in studio, former ECW heavyweight champion, Just Incredible.
Yeah, and on that note, let's bring up my favorite portion of your career, when you become Just Incredible. It's about damn time. Now we've got the ultimate gimmick. It completely works for you. You get to ECW, and you come across Mr. Paul Heyman. Tell us about Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman, man, he was definitely he was a cartoon character. He was if you ever watched the movie The Devil's Advocate.
Yes.
He was Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. That's Paul Heyman in real life. Paul Heyman gets credited for being a great booker, a great storyteller,
Innovator.
and he is all those things.
Yeah.
But the best thing he did was he was a great motivator. He took talent that was
minimal,
underdeveloped, and also underconfidenced, and he made you believe.
Right.
And he would get you in a corner, 5 minutes before your match. He would sit there and lock you into a place, just you and him talking, and he'd be like, give you this big pep talk, like you could do this. You are this character. You have all the talent you've ever needed. You just got to go out there and do it.
Did he create most of the characters we saw in ECW?
A lot of them, yeah.
Did he walk up to you one day, size you up and down, and go, Just Incredible? Was it like that, or?
Sort of, yeah.
That's
sort of.
amazing. He's a genius.
Yeah,
I love it.
Sort of, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
How did you feel when he dropped the name to you? You must have been like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I always had the idea of I wanted to be a Shawn Michaels-esque heel, where like bumping feet, like a Ric Flair kind of, Pat Patterson, Ray Stevens, a guy that just a heel that bumps around for the babyface, but also be a scumbag when he can get his shots in. And
the scumbag portion of your character, because you were, and that's right, folks, you were uniquely irritating.
Yes.
You were. Who did you pattern that? Sometimes I wanted to reach into the set and just choke you, and because you just. Who did you get that from? Did you have any influences? Because that was perfect.
It was just like the Ric Flairs, the bad guy, like, and just to be. You had carte blanche to kind of be a dick, and guys you couldn't stand, guys you wanted to beat up, and you could just be that little. And Paul helped. Paul had a bunch of little mannerisms and little things that I could do to kind of ramp that up. But it was really. It took me a couple of months to kind of get it all together, but it was fun. It was actually effortless.
It looked like it.
It was fun. It was fun, and we had a good time with it. And when sky's the limit, and you're allowed to just go out there and create, you can't go wrong. And the worst you could do is like, that didn't work. Don't do that again.
Right.
So you swerve and you go to the other way.
Right.
But it was great. It was a great time for discovery, and as long as you go out there and have good matches, quality matches, you're doing okay.
How were you able to prepare yourself for what you would face physically in ECW? There's no way Vince McMahon's company prepared you. One of your classic moments, you come down off a ladder during one of the ECW ladder matches and literally bounce with your skull. I don't even know how do you practice stuff like that?
You don't.
But Geronimo!
But you know what?
Well, here goes nothing. Bang!
I must say this, and people are going to think I'm crazy, and I hate to even say this because it's going to kill the gimmick, but I got hurt more in WWF than I did in ECW.
How?
The rings were way softer in ECW.
Really?
And the guys we were working with were a lot smaller and a lot lighter.
Okay.
We controlled more of our own bumps. And we're like in WWE, those rings were like cement, and you were working with 320-pound guys that would just drive you through the mat and hit you as hard as they could.
Okay.
Where in ECW, we are all kind of close-knit, and it's like, don't kill me, dude. Just take it easy. I'll sell it for you.
How about all those tables, though? I mean, those
tables were easy.
The ECW tables, there's no way they were more expensive than the WWE tables.
The ECW tables, they weren't gimmicked, first of all.
They look like they were straight from the high school cafeteria. That had to hurt.
No.
No. There's no concrete around the ring. There's
that hurt.
Thank you.
But it broke your fall. It literally slowed you down quite a bit. If you really look at it, it goes tump, tump.
Right.
So you really, if you were to land straight through, it would hurt like hell. But you really lose a lot of that momentum that would hurt.
Right.
So it was just all, man, it was visual. We knew how to audio, visual, and how to manipulate it to make it work for us. It was really the masterful work.
Right.
It really was.
Right. It was illusion at the highest form of art.
Really
That's
was.
for sure.
Oh my God. Who, in your opinion, has a more talented wrestling mind, Heyman or Bruce Pritchard?
Ooh, I like this.
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman. By a mile.
You worked
with
Pritchard too, though,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I worked with Bruce. I like.
So
Bruce
how
very
come
much.
Heyman over Pritchard?
I just think Paul is more contemporary. I think he's more in tune with what's going on in the business, where Bruce is more traditional pro wrestling, which again you could argue it's just a matter of taste.
Mm-hmm.
But I always felt Paul had a real way of motivating his talent and creating for that particular talent, where Bruce would just, I think, he knew how to write good pro wrestling, where Paul could look at an individual and say, I see this in you, and go that way.
Right.
Where Bruce was more of a general, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're going to fit this piece whether you're good for it
Yeah,
or
so
not.
I'm going to put your square peg in the round hole, no matter who you are.
Yeah, and Paul would really
Paul's
make
like,
it
let me
work.
fix
Yeah.
something for you.
Right.
Right.
And it was more, again, he believed more in what do the young kids like?
Mm-hmm.
What's popular?
So then,
in
how
modern
come Paul
culture for the
his
doesn't
kids?
pulse on it.
how come Paul doesn't translate anymore?
Because he doesn't care.
He's bought and paid for right now,
he
isn't
doesn't
he?
care. I mean, he was fighting for his life in ECW.
Right.
And it was a different time and a different era. And now it's almost like he's not the cool kid anymore.
Right.
And he hasn't done anything to prove anything differently.
He's Brock Lesnar's manager.
That's it. And that's it. And
He doesn't
that's
need
all
to be
there is.
anything else at
Yeah.
this point. Why be anything else?
I think, what made ECW special was, they used popular songs of the era.
Oh my God, did
and
they ever?
created these cool vignettes.
How did he not get
Illegally,
sued, by the way?
way.
Yeah, how did he not get
Illegally.
sued?
Illegally.
I was just watching at the Sandman today with Sandman, and then there's Walk from Pantera with RVD. Those were great, by
No,
the
they
way.
don't play, they
Those
don't
were
play those on
fantastic.
the network now.
They don't on the
They cut
network.
it all out.
But
You
when
can't
we
play
were
it.
doing it then, it was just, man, it caught the vibe of what the
It did.
kids
Yeah.
wanted.
It
was
did.
cool. It was really, it was original.
It was.
You know
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
we would
and that's
talk-
what really started the rock and wrestling with Mr. T and Survivor and Eye of the Tiger.
But,
and
we
Hulk Hogan.
were talking about that, right?
know?
So today's wrestling, people always picking on everything that's going
Oh.
on. You look at old ECW stuff, you see a whole bunch of mistakes happening.
yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's
you
not
guys were
perfect.
forgiven for anything
Yes.
that went on. People just loved
You know why?
that much.
Yeah.
You know why? Because as a viewer, organic is organic, and it came across organic.
Yeah.
It didn't come across like a like an overstuffed bullshit production.
Yeah.
What you saw was real.
A different time.
happening
It was a blurred time, right? Look, man. Even the WWE back then, sometimes I thought some shit was real.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, wait a minute, is this really happening? And maybe some of it was real because some things were happening in the background.
Right, like Flair and Bischoff really truly had problems in real life, and then they would explode. Right. Scott Hall with his drinking. Well, I hated when they did that, but they did that.
Yeah.
You know, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. All right, here's a good one for you. Do you think, or do you feel, that Vince McMahon is currently destroying pro wrestling as we speak with what he's doing, the way he's presenting it? Vince killing it or what?
Or I'll even ask you this. Do you think Vince is even involved anymore? You talk about Heyman.
Stop it.
Do you think Vince is
still
kind of in the back seat now?
I honestly, that's a good question because I don't think Vince McMahon has ever meant less to pro wrestling than he does right now.
Ooh.
Seriously.
Wow.
We're not talking about. I honestly don't think anybody really believes that Vince McMahon is a driving force of anything creatively.
I don't think so.
He's the final. Okay, yes or no.
I think whatever winds up on TV goes past his table.
It goes past his table, of course.
What
but I
still
don't
believe
think
that.
he's dialed into what really matters.
Do you think he's slowly checking out upstairs? Because I am worried about that.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I
hope not.
And you wouldn't know anyways because he's just such a
recluse,
different animal than all of us. But I think with what's going on with AEW and the balance that, that Triple H and Stephanie have to, with NXT, and I just never could imagine that wrestling is like at a 1.5 to 2 million viewers on these national stages.
As much as it's sputtering right now, is the company safe with Triple H and Stephanie in the future running the show?
They're safe, but they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to.
Just going to keep going the same.
It's going to be, and that's what scares me is we are turning off fans very, very at a very high rate because there's just nothing to be passionate about.
Well, you said it. 1.5 fans be broken up between a whole bunch of wrestling
all these shows.
Yeah, and we spoke about this. Today's wrestling. You got 120-pound guys in the ring. Look, man. With all due respect, if I'm going to go watch you wrestle, you sure as well better be able to beat my ass.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to have to go, oh, really?
Simple.
I can kick this dude's ass.
Believability still counts in this. They could say kayfabe is dead all they want, but if you don't give me something I can believe in, screw you. That's
and the
basically
thing
it.
is, too, that the WWE, like I tried to watch, some of their stuff recently, and the guys and gals are as good as ever.
Oh, sure.
And the ring, they're as good as ever.
Sure.
It's just something's just not connecting with me, man. I'm watching. It feels like it's an overload. It's like I'm watching the same stuff every day.
Do you feel like every single one of them should cut Rob Van Dam a check? Because when I see this, I see that this was Rob.
Yeah.
Doing it much better, by the way.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago. Everybody's trying to be Rob Van Dam now.
Yeah. Listen, he was an originator. You got to give it a break, though, right? He was an originator. The originator's always there, and eventually you can't improve. You can't get any further.
Right.
You can't take a million flips. So now there's another problem too. We're old school, right? We used to go to the Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Backlund used to hold Morocco in an armbar for 10 minutes.
Right.
You couldn't get away with that now.
No.
You'd be booed out of a building.
You would.
And back in those days, that armbar actually was creating tension leading to the next big spot. And no one had a phone to distract them.
Right.
They were staring at the match.
Yeah.
But because the story was being told.
You do your show every Friday. If you were to pull a great match from old WWE days, pull Jimmy Snuka in a steel cage with Backlund.
Wow.
Right? Or even take that Morocco Jimmy Snuka match.
There's another one.
When you watch it and evaluate those matches, they're
to
good,
the next level.
But they're not.
They're not like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing. It's actually like, I tell them all the time, I don't like watching the old school stuff anymore.
I do.
Because it ruins it for me. Because my memories of it are so large.
Nope.
And,
You know what I love about those old matches is, and for the example, I was watching Andre the Giant versus Ernie Ladd, 1977 Madison Square Garden the other day. A simple right hand from Andre brought that crowd to a roar.
Yeah.
It's just one fist.
Yeah.
And the crowd was completely engaged in it because there was some realism there. They were invested in Ernie. They were invested in Andre.
Yeah.
I think
the biggest problem is that nobody's over.
Right.
That's the thing. And one of the biggest things is, too, now, there used to always be, the Monday night era. You used to watch both programs because you didn't know who was going to show up where. There was always this thing like what is going to happen. Anything can happen. Now you know if you miss Raw, you're going to be all right. You miss SmackDown, you're going to be all right. You miss AEW, you're going to be all right.
Right.
There has to be. I don't know what it has. I see. That's the thing. I don't have the answer. I just know that what is happening and just isn't working.
Here's the answer. They have to build a star, right? So the WWE at some point said, we're not making any more stars because my stars screw me eventually in the end, right? Or whatever the case is, right?
I think Vince changed after Stone Cold took his ball and went home, and Vince went on TV and said Stone Cold took his ball and went home. After that, we had a processed star in John Cena.
Yeah.
Since then, we're waiting for the next one, and Mike says it to me all the time that he feels Cena might be the last great star of any kind, whether he's processed or not.
Right. I think you might be right.
There you go.
So you've always had a great mind for wrestling. Do you ever think about reaching out to the WWE or AEW to be a writer?
Like writing? No.
That's just not my thing.
No.
I always want. For me, I'm a performer, and because it's easy to say like everybody could put on the booking hat and say they could write.
Right.
I'm just not and anybody will say, "Oh, I could write a better show." They're kidding themselves.
Well, you hear that all the time.
You hear it all the time. I know it's a lot harder than you don't. The problem is, man, back in the day, Vince used to have the main event for WrestleMania, and let's say it was Hogan and Andre, and then you'd go back a year, and then how do we get to the main event of Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania and go back and start booking from there.
Right.
And that's what nobody does anymore. Everybody's just going show to show. They show up. Who are we trying to get over? Who are we going to promote? And there's nobody in either.
Did that start in the Attitude Era with Vince Russo? Because I personally think Vince Russo's got plenty of genius moments in his career. But was he more show to show rather? Because Vince would plan 2 years in advance.
Yeah, he was very much more show to show.
He was show.
But
That's where it begins.
Russo knew his audience.
Oh yeah, he sure did.
You can't.
Sure did.
We talk Hogan Macho Man. That feud built over a year.
Oh my God!
Like it's slowly.
Yeah.
You can't do that nowadays. No one has the attention span to watch that.
Yeah, but you could try. It doesn't hurt to try.
I would try.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't hurt to try. I think we've gotten to a place where we don't even know what works. We just throw stuff out there, and if it doesn't hit week one, if the ratings are a little low for whatever reason,
let's bail.
Or
if you get better ratings, let's just pour that group on again and again and again till you get sick of them.
Yeah, I just think they need to really. I think there's too much wrestling right now.
Yes.
I think there's too much wrestling for what the audience wants. I think if they just had Raw and, maybe SmackDown, screw NXT.
Right.
Because I know they did it to, they put it on primetime to run against AEW, but that's neither here nor there.
What about the lost art of the valet? You clearly enjoyed.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Well, can't we have more managers speaking for some of these? Because some of these guys can't talk. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How about giving them Bobby Lashley should always have a manager.
Yeah.
He's an incredible specimen, but he can't talk for shit. He's got to have a manager.
And just to have, and that's the one thing, Francine, Dawn Marie, so many others.
Amazing.
They were just beautiful girls, just the cat fights. Just there's so many things you don't do anymore. But why?
But you can't.
Why?
You put a cat fight on, people flip out, right? Oh,
now
my
it's
God,
sexist.
what are they doing? This
now
is
it's
sexist.
This
is embarrassing.
So what? You know what? Grab a set. And you got to stand for something. This is professional wrestling.
I agree.
You could also combat it with, look, this is entertainment.
Right.
I also write a story about a murderer who's a psychopath killer, and the cops are going after him. It's fake. We're a fake show. You know what I mean?
Right.
You should be able to.
Right.
This isn't real. Like, where do we draw the line of reality?
Right. Hypothetical. You're running your own organization, right? And you're getting towards the big time, and you got some really big sponsors. And your writer goes, "I got this great idea. We got this talk show host. He's going to bring on this wrestler who happens to be from the islands." And he's going to hit him with a coconut while throwing bananas at him and making fun of his heritage. You're the guy that's running that organization.
Are you pulling the trigger on that skit?
You know what? I'm going to grab my balls and I'm going to go with this.
I'm not going to go with that one. No.
Not today, huh? Not today,
huh?
On that one.
What is Justin Credible's favorite, as a fan, your favorite match you've ever watched that you
sure
love?
Ric Flair, Rick Steamboat. Wrestle War 89.
Son of a bitch.
He goes after that.
Really?
Yeah.
It was great. Which one? Wait a minute. Which one? They had
Wrestle War 89 in Nashville.
That's the one I think I picked.
That's the one you picked.
Yeah, I think that's the one. How great was that match?
It was great. For me, that's what made me want to be a wrestler.
Bro, you grew up on the Northeast, though.
I know,
man.
that's what everybody says.
You're a traitor.
He's such a real
Wow.
he's such a homer, though, and so am I, though, too. We actually, back in the days when
3,000 people watched that.
That's all right.
Yeah, but billions speak about it to this day.
You know, now I can't.
You
tear it
know,
down
right?
anymore.
No, it was okay. I mean, look, everybody's different. It was because it was almost everything that the WWF wasn't
At that time, sure.
Because they you know, it was the land of the giants,
Right.
And
But did you embrace Hogan and Warrior when all of that was
I liked
happening?
them
That was
all.
great.
Don't get me wrong, I loved Hogan, I
Okay.
loved Warrior, but as a
Okay.
kid, I was force fed all that stuff, and then I'd go to like the magazine, like the the food stores or wherever.
Sure,
they had the magazine
PWI,
racks.
Wrestler, Pro
And then
Wrestling Illustrated.
I'd look
yeah.
at PWI, and there'd be like Flair Steamboat, and you'd read all these things, and
Right.
they really helped make wrestling at that time. And then
Right.
it was like, am I missing something? And then when you'd get that opportunity to finally watch it, it was almost like watching something you're not supposed to.
Did you catch any of the earlier Georgia Championship Wrestling in the early? You didn't catch any?
We didn't have WTBS till later.
Oh, bummer, man. That stuff was fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't catch
Oh,
that
my
till later
God.
on. So, but yeah, that would be it.
All right, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with pro wrestler Just Incredible. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. You know what? I said I got one question for you. I do have one question for you.
All right.
One final question.
What, do we need a drum roll for this?
Yeah, you know what? I had a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to hit on this.
Okay.
When did you realize addiction was taking over your life?
When I would say 2001, I had some time off from wrestling, and
ECW has folded.
Huh?
ECW has
ECW
folded.
had folded. I was in between, getting ready to go to WWE,
Okay.
and my wife and I were going to the Jersey Shore with my parents, and my wife said to me, "Pete, do you want me to fill your prescriptions to take with us?" And I said, "No. I'm not wrestling. I don't need the medicine." So, I said, all right. So we went down there. So my mom, my dad, my firstborn son, my youngest, or my oldest now, but he was my only at the time. And we got down there, and I'm like, first night I go to bed, I'm like starting to feel sweaty, starting to feel not good. Maybe it's hot, the bed's not comfortable. Whatever. Horrible night. Then, I got in the shower, didn't sleep at all the next day. Started to get very nauseous, diarrhea, cold sweats, the whole thing. And I started to get very emotional and very achy and just this horrific feeling. And then finally, after about day 2 or about day 3, I said, "Jill, I don't know what's going on." She's like, "Well, call the doctor." And I called my doctor, and I told him what was going on. And he said, don't worry, I'll call you in something to the local pharmacy down in Wildwood where we were. And then I got the prescription, I took it, as ordered, whatever, and I felt good again, or normal, and I'm like, oh.
This is a problem.
Were these pain meds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Vicodin. But that's what it is. That's what physical addiction is. And maybe it's me being so naive, and in some instances in my life, but I'd never connected the two. I was just like, and that's when it really started to, and then it gets in your head, right? You don't want to be that sick, and you have to keep going.
Yeah.
And it becomes a real juggling act. So it took me a long time,
The addiction was almost a necessity, though, as you're doing your job as a pro wrestler with pain, no? Or do you think you could have gotten through it without pain meds, pro wrestling?
I could have, I think.
Okay.
But at some points, I don't know, man. There's some points where you say you can because you realize like how far out of control it had gotten, but there were times where I could barely move, And one thing we were taught back then is you never say no.
Right.
You know, Vince wants you to, you don't dare call in.
Right.
No matter what. I remember having a concussion, like stone cold blacked out, not knowing how I got there. And then wrestling a day after, where now you get through concussion protocols and you're out for months. I'd be out in the ring the next day.
Right.
You know, on several occasions, more than one. So who knows what the damage was. So you were just always afraid to, you know, because you wanted your job. You were afraid to be honest and say, this is, you know, you did whatever. Spit and glue, man. Tape it up. Just to keep going, because you didn't want to lose your gig because there was somebody coming up that was damn well ready to take your spot.
So in a way, you were kind of forced at some point in your career to have to do something you didn't want to do, like walk out there with a concussion. 2 and 2 is 22.
Maybe if I was stronger mentally, I would have been different. But I you know, it's just a very scary thing when you're holding on to something. I wouldn't risk
my job either.
You know, it's just, you know, it's what it was. And I don't blame the business. I don't blame WWE. I don't blame ECW. Yeah. But, you know, it was definitely something to think about, though, because you didn't want to lose what you have because so many people wanted what you had.
It's so hard to get it, too.
Yeah. So it was scary.
How about ending on an up note? What is the greatest moment of your pro wrestling career, if you have one? There must be one favorite moment.
I get asked that quite often these days, and I really don't have anything like huge that stands out. But I would have to say the first time that I won the only time I won the ECW world title, because even though wrestling's a work, what it showed to me was that I was able to be one of the best in the world in a major company run. You know what I mean?
It's a stamp of approval.
WWE, WCW, ECW, and I was one of the top guys in that conversation. So that to me solidified my worth to the business at the moment. So I would say that was it.
Oh, I loved it. The gimmick was amazing.
So you got millions of fans out there. Troubled times. What kind of message can you send to the fans?
And just stay positive. I know it's easy to say, but you know, I'm one that's doing it every day too, and not knowing sometimes where you're getting your next paycheck from. You know, it's been rough, but just stay positive and do what you can to just make everything better and to better yourselves and to keep everyone around you, that your loved ones, safe and healthy. That's it.
You're a special human being, man. Thank you again for coming on the show.
So much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, man.
Upcoming events, August 8th, Agent Eric Sims. You know Eric Sims, right?
I do.
He's a buddy of yours, right?
Yeah.
He's a real piece of work, that guy.
There's no BS.
You hate him?
No, I don't hate Eric.
Dislike him a little bit?
No. I love everybody, man.
Really?
Yes.
Even after a car ride? Because when you were telling that Nash and Kid story, I was thinking, Sims was probably driving that car. They just wanted to kill him, and so they just took it out on each other.
I just put my headphones on.
Hey, look, guys, there's a Wendy's.
August 8th, we've got 2 interviews. Super Agent Eric Sims on the first hour, and then WWE superstars James Ellsworth and Gilbert in front of a live studio in Philadelphia.
I love Gilbert.
Monte The Pharaoh can be seen on YouTube, the Monte The Pharaoh page, Facebook Live on the Monte The Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV. Bless you. The Monte The Pharaoh page.
Twitch.
RTF Sports Network, Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Their drive-by show, and then the replay is on Monday from 10 to 11. Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9.
The abbreviated version.
Saturday, 6 a.m. on Channel 115 to 6:30. Channel 20 Friday morning at 1:30. I think that's about covered.
Are you sure?
We want to thank Just Incredible, Aldo Montoya.
Just incredible.
And just a hell of a human being. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
This is Mike
pleasure.
Monty.
This is the Pharaoh. Until next week, later.